Look under there. Now what? Absorption. Obviously, you change.
Good evening. All of them talking. I am wishing you all good evening, but that also the responding back, that also you all have not learned in person. So sad. Good evening. Hello. What was the last topic we were doing? We had started, we were doing DNA copying, I think. DNA copying. So we were studying, we started with DNA copying. What was it? DNA copying we started. Process where the chromosome, what did you learn? It is a process by which the chromosome shows a process of division. Chromosome during the process of division shows doubling. What are some of the basic concepts that you are supposed to remember? DNA copying that we had studied last day. When does DNA copying occur? During the process of cell division. Today I will not think a second to throw you out. Remember no PTM? PTM day you remember? कि short term memory है गया सर? अभी तक है कि गया? So now when we are talking about the concept of DNA copying, that is the first step during the process of, the first step you may understand before process of cell division. Can we think of cell division without DNA copying? No. Can we think of cell division without division of the or multiplication of the DNA chromosomes? No. So what did we learn the other day? We learned before the process of reproduction to take place, what is happening actually? During the process of reproduction, what is happening? Number one, cell division is a must. During the process of cell division, what is now always taking place? Multiplication of chromosomes. How did we understand multiplication of chromosomes? If you remember, I told you one concept, that is when a cell is in the process of division, I start with any cell. Now say suppose I talk about any particular cell, whatever be the chromosome number, what did I tell you? This particular cell will undergo the process of division. And as this cell undergoes the process of division, now what happens? This cell will generally form two cells. And what did we understand? That the number of chromosomes in these two cells also remains the same. And that is where we understood if it is DNA copying or if it is cell division, then DNA copying is a must. Meaning How is it possible that this parent cell which has 12 chromosomes, the daughter cells also has 12? Majorly it should be 6, is not? So that is what we feel. But no, there are two types of cell division. So that is where I'm starting here today. With this concept, I'm understanding there is one type of a cell division known as mitosis, where one cell always divides to form two cells. How many daughter cells? Now these are the cells, we term them as daughter cells, the newly formed cells from a parent cell. So how many daughter cells? Two daughter cells. What about the chromosome number? Here also 12, here also 12. So we would say chromosome number is maintained. So what are we going to write? If it is a concept of mitosis, so far the chromosome, what is it? The chromosome number is maintained. What is the meaning of this? Chromosome number maintained, meaning the parent cell and the daughter cells having the same number. The parent cells and the daughter cells having the same number of chromosomes. So that is what we are talking about as chromosome number maintained. But is that the only type of cell division that organisms show? No, there is one more type of cell division which specifically takes place during the process of reproduction, gamete formation. Gamete formation. Now what is that? Here, if I talk about one cell with 12 chromosomes, this cell will result in the formation of 4 cells, and each of these cells will generally have half of the chromosome number. They will always have half of the chromosome number. So, what are these cells now known as? Of course, they are also daughter cells, but these group of cells have got a specialized term to be mentioned, and we will say that these cells are the reproductive cells or the gametes. But what about the chromosome number then? How many daughter cells, how many gametes? Always one cell gives rise to 4. If this is what the concept is, this is what is meiosis. Mitosis and meiosis go parallelly the moment we are talking about cell division. Meiosis always involved in the formation of the gametes, and then further by the process of fusion of gametes we will come across fertilization, fusion of gametes. That has to be followed by a process known as mitosis for the growth and the increase in the number of the cells, and hence we get the organism and the growth of that organism. So if I have to understand a concept of reproduction, what are the two types of cell division? The two types of cell division are mitosis and meiosis. What are some of the most important differences to understand? If it is mitosis, yes, this is the first major point to understand. Chromosome number remains the same. What type of cells generally show this type of division? Mitosis. I would say the somatic cells generally show this type of a division. What is somatic cell? Somatic cells means any cell of the body apart from the reproductive cell. I mentioned this the other day also. Remember the terms? Try to understand. Somatic cells means what? The liver cell, the bone cell, the muscle cell, the stomach cell, anything apart from the cells of the reproductive organs. Then what do I write here? If I have to talk about the chromosome number, what will I write here? Chromosome number is reduced. The chromosome number is reduced. The chromosome number is reduced to half, and that is always a feature of meiosis. In what type of cells do they show this particular method? In what type of cells? Here I am writing takes place in somatic cells. Then what should I write? Takes place in the cells of the reproductive organs. Takes place in the cells of the reproductive organs. Only in the animals? No, animals and plants both. Animals and plants both. So here we are talking about 4 daughter cells again, remember, and here we are talking about 2 daughter cells. Now again, summarizing the concept of DNA copying that we learned. DNA copying basically, is DNA copying happening here? Here also it is happening because I'm just jumping from the parent cell to the last stage, that is gamete formation. In between there are so many stages where DNA copying has happened. That I'm not telling you now because that is not needed now. So is DNA copying happening here? Yes, DNA copying is happening here also. Is DNA copying happening here? Definitely, this is very clear to understand. Yes, DNA copying is happening. So actually I understand that here what is happening at one of these stages, this is the process which is taking place, and then again that divides to 12 and 12. Very simple, right? So what did we understand? During the process of DNA copying, what now next? The chromosome, every single chromosome is made up of what? What is the chemical composition of the chromosome we learn? DNA. What is the full form of DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. And what did we understand the other day? That if we talk about the entire DNA molecule, if I draw the DNA horizontally also, I may draw the DNA horizontally like this, the same thing that I have explained you the other day. So this is the DNA molecule. And if this DNA molecule has to undergo the process of, if this DNA molecule has to undergo the process of duplication, so what will happen now? What did we learn? It will come across certain enzymes, and the enzymes are constantly rolling over, opening up the hydrogen bonds. So all these were the concepts that we had studied. And the double-stranded DNA molecule now starts becoming single-stranded. And now this new DNA molecule starts building up this way. One DNA molecule goes this direction and the other DNA molecule here. The method of formation is different, but the method we are not talking about now, that's not needed for you. At the same time, the other day I also told you that if this is the method of the formation of the new DNA molecule, there are errors that take place. There are errors like this that take place, wrong units coming in, certain part of the DNA not copied all over, certain part of the DNA not copied all together. So if these are errors I mentioned, then what did we come across? That these type of a process, DNA copying, which is a biochemical process, does it bring in errors? Yes, there are errors in the process of DNA copying, and these errors in the process of DNA copying would lead to variations. What is the definition of variation? I told you the other day. Variations are always the new characteristics that we develop as compared to our parents. So how do we define this word? What are variations? Small changes observed in an organism as compared to parents. It is understood that if the organism, the newly developed organism, new generation organism is formed from two parents, the same thing I told you the other day also. If you look at your cell, and we are very much convinced that our DNA is absolutely our father's and our mother's DNA. So definitely all the characteristics that we show, physical, physiological, enzyme, protein, color, etc., whatever, everything should either match with our father or with our mother. But that actually does not happen. There are quite a number of characteristics which our mother also does not have, with our father also does not have, but we are having those characteristics that may be in the form of behavior, shape, size, color, pigment, hormone, etc. Then how did we develop them? Our mother also does not have that, father also does not have. It is because of these type of changes which has happened in the DNA during the process of fertilization, cell division, etc. Is this much clear? So now you get questions that what are variations? Variations are small changes that are seen in an organism, characteristics seen in an organism as compared to parents. New changes observed in an organism, in the characteristics of an organism as compared to parents. What is the cause for variations? The cause for variations are errors during DNA copying. What is the significance when we are talking about variations? Are variations always advantageous? Mostly. Mostly. Are variations always advantageous? Mostly, because I told you the other day also, we all are born with variations. Every generation organisms are born with variations. Why? Because the process of cell division, chromosome duplication without an error, it is not possible. Errors happen, definitely. Small, big errors happen. So when these errors are there, this is making our DNA a little bit changed. And that is the reason the type of the enzyme and the hormone and the behavioral characteristics are a little bit different from our parents. What would happen if the errors are big enough? A major part of the DNA not copied, so many parts are broken in the DNA and wrong units are so many, then a person is born with some chromosomal disorder. This much is clear. So this is, you get questions on this. Variations. Are variations beneficial for an organism? Are variations beneficial for an organism or for a species? Now, what is the meaning? You understand? That's your text question itself. Here we are saying, is variations, a number of variations, are variations beneficial for a species or it is beneficial for an organism or a organism? Yes. I'm saying here that variation, I would say, I am using two words here, for a species and for an organism. When I say it is only for an organism, that means only one single individual I'm talking about, or few. Try understanding what I'm speaking. I said quite a number of times variations are limited in few organisms of a species. When I say species, what do you understand? A large number of organisms of the same kind. No? Large number of organisms of the same kind. Let me give you an example to understand this. For example, I talk about a species of birds. Species of birds with a longer beak. Previous generation, the beak is longer. And a large number of these birds are now having this characteristics. The beak is longer. Almost about in 70-80 birds I got to see this. In 70-80 birds in a particular area, I got to see this, that the beak is quite long. But only in 5 birds, I got to see that the beak is extremely short. So what do you understand? The shorter beak is a good characteristic, advantageous, or the longer beak is an advantageous characteristic for this bird? Longer beak. Now, what are you to write as a reason? Try understanding. I'm just giving you one example. Many other examples you'll be able to write like this. I say, I study a generation of birds, some 100 to 100 birds I'm studying, and then I get to see that almost about 100 birds are having a long beak, and just about 5, 7, 10 of them are having a short beak, very short. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that these birds which are having a long beak very much must be beneficial because of this feature that they are developing, picking up the food or etc., whatever. So these birds which are in a semi-aquatic environment, they are developing a very long beak. So what is happening? It is easier for them to drag the food from that environment, the shallow waters, catch the fish or etc. So this characteristic which is good for them, helping in the process of nutrition, is it helping that bird? Yes, the bird is growing, maturing, and also surviving till the reproductive age. If it is surviving till the reproductive age, the characteristic is getting over to the next generation, passing over. So the next generation is also showing the same feature. Talk about the other side. Why these 5 birds only have a short beak, very short? Now that they have a very short beak and these are semi-aquatic birds, are they able to catch the fish or the shrimp or etc. in the water with that short beak? No, they are not able to do that. So in that process, they are maybe now not getting adequate amount of nourishment, not getting adequate amount of food. They are dying out early. They also don't have a strong pair of wings that they can fly and get food. So now they are dying out early. They are not surviving till the reproductive age. They are dying out quite early. Since they are not surviving, these birds with the short beak, if they are not surviving till the reproductive age, is it possible that they pass on the characteristic to the next generation? They won't be, because reproduction ही नहीं हो रहा है. How will they pass on the characteristic to the next generation? So from this aspect, we are understanding which is the advantageous feature. The one for this organism, long beak is a advantageous variation and short beak is a disadvantageous variation. Did you understand this example? This is just an example. I am telling you, many other situation case study you are given in your paper. Analyze, read, and answer. Now, so here we understand that variations. What is his name? Why? Tired. Why he got up at what time?
Around 6.
6. School कहाँ से कब आए घर पे?
Around 4.
And उसके बाद ट्यूशन. स्कूल में भी सो ही रहे थे, बैठे ही थे. हाँ तो how did you become so tired? If you can sit, you will be inside the classroom. Otherwise, you can go home. I will ask Rekha to allow you. इतना स्ट्रेस लेके क्या होने वाला है? कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला. इतना स्ट्रेस लेके बेटर घर जाओ, सोफे में सो जाओ. That's much better. है ना, आराम करो. So now, if you have to sit here, your spine should be straight. Very clear. Now, when we are talking about, तो ये है basic concept of variation. Now we try understanding. After this concept of variation, see 1 or 2 questions only I want to go through. After that, we move on to the next topic. If you see this question, page number 205. Read this. A similar type of a condition I was explaining you just now. Read 205, the last question. Why is variation beneficial to the species? Why is variation beneficial to the species but not necessarily for the organism? Just read. Niche मतलब habitat. जहाँ पे a specific organism would survive. एक बार पढ़ो. All of you go through and tell me if you are understanding that. Read? All of you, did you go through this question?
Yes.
Page 205. So all of you, आया समझ में? कुछ doubt है? आया समझ में? Any type of an example, you'll have to follow this concept. So now, in any population, the moment we see certain few characteristics or certain few individuals only has one specific characteristic and majority of the other organism has one common characteristic, then which one are we to take as an advantageous variation? The one which is present in a large number. Variation that is present in a large number of individuals is always a advantageous or a beneficial variation. Variation which is present only in a few number of individuals always is considered as a disadvantageous variation. So this is the principle, this is the rule to understand. Now next is we are to study the modes of reproduction.
But there are some people who can look a larger distance, like,
जैसे
as compared to normal people.
larger distance मतलब
एक साथ they can look like
कैसे larger कौन सा मतलब physically कि psychologically larger, क्या बोल रहे हो तुम?
कैसे भी मतलब. There are some people जिनको दूर से भी आवाज सुनाई देती है, like कुछ स्पेशल टाइप को
खरगोश बोल रहा है अंदर इंसान बोल रहा है।
When I talk about all the regular normal characteristics, दूर से आवाज सुनाई देती है, कौन सा दूर से आवाज सुनाई देती है? We are talking about all the normal characteristics, normal features, where if you mean to say that an individual is able to hear sounds below and above the frequency that we normal people hear, that is fiction perhaps you are talking about. वो normally कभी नहीं होता है. वो normally कभी नहीं होता. We all human would be having the same basic characteristics of the eyes and the ears. If a person has a difference in the eye pigment, or if a person has a difference in the muscle characteristics, the length of the limbs, the height of the limbs, legs, hands, if I'm talking about muscle contraction, if I'm talking about for human, if I have to say, I should majorly give you examples like the physiological disorders that children are born with, people are born with, the problems with the heart and the pancreas and the kidneys, ये ज़्यादातर human में होता है. And then the differences in the pigments of the eye, vision problems जो. So if I talk about out of 100 births, 2 ही बच्चों में some major problems in the heart रहेंगी. Out of 100 births, 10 ही बच्चों में शायद kidney problems रहेगा, right from birth जो major problems हो. So that is of course in human also, that if I talk about a person, I may talk about these 5 children out of 50 who are born, or out of 100 who are born with some major problems in the heart. They are generally surviving only for a short period of time. They may not survive till even 25 or 30 years of their life also. So अगर 25-30 years नहीं हो रहा, then the chances of passing over this characteristic to the next generation वैसे ही कम हो जा रहा है. So that is the reason ये feature population में कम है. But if I talk about height, and if I talk about the texture of the hair, if I talk about the color of the skin, जो normal features है, which are helping an individual survive better in the environment, so this person is surviving till 30-35 years. And definitely undergoing the process of reproduction and definitely passing on the characteristics to the next generation. तो वो feature spread out हो रहा है population में. Understood? This is what we are talking about. Here we are not talking about any fiction or anything that we imagine or imagine जो हम कर सकते हैं. Now the modes of reproduction. What are the different modes?
Sexual and
Sexual and asexual. What are some of the major features we'll have to remember? The major features when we are talking about asexual mode and the sexual mode of reproduction, 2 major processes of reproduction. Now at least 5 to 6 differences you are always supposed to remember when we are talking about the sexual and the asexual modes of reproduction. Now if I just understand that what is meant by the asexual mode of reproduction, only one parent is involved. What about the offsprings formed? Wait, I will give you a table where you will write down all the characteristics and the differences very nicely. When we are talking about the asexual mode, what are some of the major features that you should remember? Only one parent is involved. And the number of offsprings किसे कहते हैं? The next generation organisms. The number of offsprings would be many. Hundreds भी हो सकता है. The number of offsprings are many. The third feature. अब जब ये number of offsprings are many, I'm saying hundreds of offsprings, I'm saying all these hundreds of offsprings, can they be identical? Yes, they can be, and they are. All these offsprings formed by this method are identical. Offsprings formed by this method, do they show variation? Negligible. क्योंकि वो एक ही parent का DNA roll हो रहा है, divide हो रहा है, grow हो रहा है. So it is not that the DNA of 2 parents coming together where the chances of variation ज़्यादा हो जाता है, which is more in this method. So when I talk about यहाँ पे भी variation हो रहा है, but it is negligible, and that's the reason all the individuals offsprings are identical. Next, majority of these methods, when we talk about the parent it is the parent body only which is dividing to form the offsprings. So अब जब offspring आ गया, parent कहाँ है? The parent is not there. It is the parent body only which is dividing to form the offsprings. So in majority of these cases, majority, not in all, majority of the cases, the moment I'm talking about asexual reproduction, the parent body divides to form the new generation organisms. The parent cell divides to form the new generation organisms. So we would say the parent body is not sustained. The parent body is not sustaining. The parent body is dividing itself. What about this side? Two parents involved, number of offsprings are much lesser. The offsprings are all with variations because it is the coming together of the DNA of two different parents. The offsprings are all with variations. Offsprings are better suited to the environmental changes. The process is complicated and lengthy. It's a complicated and a lengthy process. And now when we are talking about that, the process of sexual and asexual, which group of organisms? Some invertebrates and majority of the vertebrates will all show this method. The moment I talk about developed organisms, always show this method. Plants, sexual or asexual? Plants are also majorly sexual except for few types. The very, very simple ones, the halophytes and all, if I mentioned, then they would be under this category only. We'll make a table, write down the 5 major differences between sexual and asexual modes of reproduction. Make a table, all of you, fast.
5 major differences.
No, just make a table. I'll give you the points. Make a table, asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction and the other side, sexual reproduction. Make a table. For asexual reproduction, first write down. Under asexual reproduction, write down. Only one parent is involved. Under asexual mode, write down only one parent is involved. Other side, 2 parents involved. 2 parents involved. Done. Second point. Second point. Asexual does not involve. यहाँ से क्यों? Does not involve formation of any specialized reproductive cells. Does not involve formation of any specialized reproductive cells. For sexual, the other side you will write involves
Specialized.
reproductive cells. Reproductive cells. Samjho, whatever you are writing. Now for sexual, the other side you write involves the formation of reproductive cells. What is the name I had used? Reproductive cells? Gametes. Involves the formation of reproductive cells known as gametes. Under the sexual, number 3, number of offsprings are many. Number of offsprings formed are many. Number of offsprings formed are many. Sexual, few offsprings are formed. Few offsprings are formed. Sexual, few offsprings are formed. Number 4, asexual, offsprings formed are all identical. Number 4, offsprings formed are all identical. Offsprings formed are all identical. Other side, sexual, offsprings identical. Asexual. Offsprings formed are all identical. Other side, offsprings show variations. Sexual में offsprings show variations. Asexual, next point, involves mitosis as the process of division. Involves mitosis as the process of division. So asexual, always remember the process of mitosis is the major process of cell division there. Other side, sexual involves meiosis and mitosis. Involves meiosis. Meiosis spelling yaad hai? Involves meiosis and mitosis for mitosis. Involves meiosis and mitosis for formation of. One minute. Let me complete with this. Involves meiosis and mitosis for the formation of offsprings. Involves meiosis and mitosis for the formation of offsprings. क्या है third point? Read out.
Number of offsprings formed are many in asexual, and in sexual few offsprings are formed.
Number of offsprings are many. Other side, few offsprings are formed. Sexual में few offsprings are formed. Now we are going to learn the methods. What are some of the asexual modes?
Involves mitosis and division, mitosis and meiosis both.
उसके बाद मेकअप करना. Sit properly, no washing face. Just have a sip of water. बाहर जाके time pass करना है. हाँ? You have water, no? You don't take water?
I don't have water right.
Water bottle नहीं है अभी. जा पानी पी के. Go.
नहीं आती.
अभी तुमको बाहर जाना है.
नॉट
हाँ पूछो.
एसेक्शन वगैरह उसमें लाइक कोई भी वेरिएशन नहीं होता एकदम से
I say variation होता है तो possibly नहीं है कि we are talking about cell division, duplication of the DNA without variation. But since it is only the DNA of one parent, variation is negligible. For an example, I may say 1% अगर 1% अगर asexual mode में होता है तो almost about 20% sexual mode में होता है. That is the ratio. Quite a big variation happens in sexual. So that's the reason, though we look quite similar like our parents, we don't look identical. We are not identical to any of our parents. No, that's the reason. Asexual mode. Which are the asexual modes of reproduction we are going to study?
reproduction
Still, I am impressed पर क्या हुआ?
8th में पढ़ा था.
याद है अभी? हाँ तो थोड़ा मेहनत करेगा तो देख कितना अच्छा तुम कर सकते हो तुम. हाँ? फिर भी I'm still better. I still feel better with the changes that I get to see in you. किसने क्या डोज दिया तुमको जो तुम थोड़ा सा सीरियस हो गए? Confess. अंदर से. वो अंदर का कॉलिंग जब तक नहीं आता कोई कुछ बोल नहीं सकता. So please be serious, all of you. 10th standard, my sweet boy. वो तुम्हारी स्माइल ही मुझे याद रहेगी. Hope we remember your marks than the smile. हाँ? स्टार्ट किया? क्या स्टार्ट किया? आज से करूँगा. वो प्रेजेंट कंटिन्यूअस ही रह जाएगा. What are the different modes? Now, asexual mode of reproduction. The first one that we talk about is fission. Fission. This particular method can be of two types. We are talking about binary. We are talking about multiple fission, binary fission. So let us talk about the first one, binary fission. What are some of the differences? Now, binary fission, when I talk about the concept of binary fission, it majorly takes place in the unicellular organisms. Binary fission takes place in unicellular organisms. I may talk about an amoeba here. What would be the method of binary fission, and the changes would be, first of all, in case of amoeba that we understand, it would be the elongation of the nucleus, and this would be followed by a small constriction in the nucleus. This would be followed by a small constriction in the nucleus. And this constriction of the nucleus will deepen further. And this will result in the formation of two daughter cells. This will result in the formation of the two daughter cells like this. And ultimately we come across the process of cell division, cytoplasmic division, and the formation of two daughter cells. So what are the stages in a sequence? Now that we are talking about the stages in a sequence, number one, elongation of the nucleus followed by constriction of the nucleus, and third is division of cytoplasm. Division of cytoplasm. Now this is what we are talking about, binary. Why the word binary? The nucleus divides into two parts. How many daughter cells? Two daughter cells. Where is the parent? Parent identity is lost. Parental identity, I told you, in most of the cases, not the parent died. Here we would say it is the parent body only which divided to give rise to the new organism. So what is the concept to mention here? Don't ever write parent and the teacher will die there. Parent died, not to write parent identity is lost. Okay, so we write parent identity or the parental identity is lost. So this is what you are to take a note when you write down the feature. The parental identity is lost here. कौन याद कर रहा है? Oh wow, मुझे तो कोई याद भी नहीं करता है. Put your phone. हाँ, वो क्लास शुरू होने के पहले करना है ना. Parental identity is lost. पक्का टाइम तो नहीं हुआ ना 6:30. आज तो टाइम गड़बड़ हो गया.
6:20.
Go and come back in a minute. You did not meet me na parent PTM day. Why? Why?
Because the timing was bit odd.
Our timing was odd. 8 o'clock.
Because
You wanted us to inform you and welcome you with garlands at what time? Huh? You go, come back in a minute. This is, look into the features. After this, I'll ask you to write down the differences on your own. We are talking about binary fission. Now, the next part would be multiple fission. Binary fission and multiple fission. What type of organisms show binary fission? ये भी याद रखना है. We are talking about organisms like amoeba. We are talking about organisms like Paramecium, Euglena, all Chlamydomonas. Yes, all these organisms will show this method of. So what type of cell division is this? Mitosis. No, the features I told you already. Mitosis. A point of difference you have written also. Now, multiple fission, if it is, this is basically for organisms. These are also single-celled organisms, but these single-celled organisms, these are pathogenic organisms. Now, what is the meaning? Parasite or pathogenic bolte hain. What is the meaning of pathogenic? They are capable of causing diseases or harm to an organism's body. How would the process go? It's a single organism. This would undergo multiple division of the nucleus. This would result in the multiple division of the nucleus. And later, this will result in the formation of small cell-like structures where the nuclear fragments are covered up by a small amount of cytoplasm like this. Are covered up by a small amount of cytoplasm like this and resulting in the formation of the cell-like structures, and these are all the new daughter cells in the process of formation. And after some time, this entire structure, the wall and the nuclear structures that are formed, all will burst out and result in the release of this small cell-like structures. These are all the daughter cells. So many daughter cells, hundreds of them released at one time. Why the word multiple? Because the nucleus divides a large number of times, resulting in the formation of small daughter cells, numerous in number. But then when we are talking about this particular method, what are the stages? Division of the nucleus. This is the division of the nucleus. Division of the nucleus. Next is the daughter nuclei increases in number to fill up the space of the cell. Whatever is the space of the cell, the division of the nucleus constantly keeps on happening unless and until they fill the space of the cell, and then the rupturing of the cell membrane. Rupturing of the cell membrane. Rupturing means breaking. Rupturing of cell membrane and the release of the daughter nuclei. And the release of the daughter nuclei. Now that I talk about one of these daughter nuclei, now this is separate, this is not the method ends here. I talk about this daughter nuclei. What has happened? This daughter nuclei has got a outer protective wall. This outer protective wall is known as the cyst wall. Did we come across anything like this? In this binary fission method, the daughter cells which are formed as it is, they are only two. So chances of survival as it is becomes lesser, no? In case they come across any unfavorable conditions, they are dying out. Dryness or too much of moisture or very high temperature, what will happen to this? They will die out. What about these daughter nuclei? They are releasing in hundreds and thousands, and on top of that, they have got a protective outer wall to resist them from all the environmental odds. क्या बोलेंगे उसको? That is known as a cyst wall, a harder protective cover which protects them from cyst wall. So now the chances of survival is more no here. In case they are released under unfavorable conditions, the chances of survival is more because they are protected by a hard outer covering.
What is the composition of this?
Generally proteins, variety of different type of proteins are there, and these generally make the daughter nuclei survive the unfavorable conditions for a long period of time. So now that these daughter nuclei are released maybe in a condition when there is very high temperature, are they immediately dying out? No, they will not die out. They will be resisting. They will be able to resist because of the harder outer core. And when the conditions are favorable again, they will again grow, flourish and become the mature cell. So chances of survival is here more, chances of survival here is less. Number of daughter cells here 2, number of daughter cells many. How many times the nucleus is dividing? Only once. The nucleus divides into 2 fragments, and what about the other side? The nucleus divides into many fragments. What type of organisms show this method? You have to remember. What type of organisms show this method? One more difference that you write. All these organisms, these are not capable of causing any harm to any organism, and that's why they are known to be non-pathogenic, meaning they don't cause any disease. Talk about the amoeba, paramecium, etc. But those type of organisms, they always cause harm. About the concept of fission. What is fission? Fission basically takes place in simple single-celled organisms. What are the two methods? Binary fission and multiple fission. Okay, remember the points. Next is, apart from the single-cell organisms, we talk about some multicellular organisms now. Asexual mode. In case of asexual mode, we now talk about fragmentation. What is the second mode we are talking about? Fragmentation. Fragmentation majorly takes place in multicellular organisms, but which are simple ones. Multicellular organisms definitely we are talking about, but simple multicellular organisms, something like example. What example you can write? Hydra. No, I'm sorry, Spirogyra. Examples like Spirogyra. Examples like the Ovalia. Where are they present? These are organisms which are present in the pond, the lake, freshwater bodies. These type of organisms, how do they look like? They are filamentous organisms, thread-like, filament-like organisms. So I would understand that these type of organisms are something like this, where the organism's body would generally have, it is multicellular I mentioned, so it would be generally having few number of cells but no complex tissues and organs like we possess definitely. And these type of organisms just has some threads of proteins, small amount of cytoplasm and a nucleus in every single cell. That is their composition. That is their composition. These ribbon-like structures, the fine thread-like structures, ribbon-like structures that we are talking about, Spirogyra. What happens? This particular mode is known as fragmentation. What is the name of this method? Fragmentation. Why the method this way? Because this mature organism, once it is fully formed, normally it will just divide its body into few fragments. What is the method of reproduction for them? Now, this is a mature organism fully formed. What is the name of this ribbon-like structure? The name of this ribbon-like structure is thallus. The flat ribbon-like structure is known as the thallus. And what would happen to the thallus now? Once mature, it will, as it is, divide into few fragments. Now that it divides into few fragments, provided every fragment has some 1 or 2 cells, the entire organism itself will be having 20, 25, 50 cells, nothing more than that. So this fragments, now say suppose the fragments are something like this. How many fragments I'm showing you in this figure? 1, 2, 3. 3, no? Now this particular fragment, does it have adequate amount of cell parts or cells? Yes. Adequate amount of cell parts or cells? Nothing, no? So this part, so what generally decides how many number of organisms will be formed? You get diagrams like this in your question paper, that out of this thallus, they will show you division, division, division. How many organisms will be formed? What is the principle you look for? You look for like this, that how many parts have got some cell parts and cells. The fragment which has got the adequate amount of cell parts and cells, that will give rise to a new organism. So if that is the concept, will this give rise to a new organism? No, this will not give rise to a new organism at all. So out of this thallus, how many Spirogyra you expect to get? 2 new Spirogyra. Where is the parent organism? Huh?
Identity loss.
Identity is lost. That is what you write. So this will again give rise to a new Spirogyra. This gives rise to a new Spirogyra. This will not give rise to anything. Now, as homework, you write down in your notebook, complete well-labeled diagram of fragmentation. Next class, I'm going to check. Well, this diagram for 2 marks you are asked in your paper. Well-labeled diagram of fragmentation. Then leave a small paragraph, something like 7-8 lines. Keep a gap.
Diagram of
Fragmentation. Diagram of fragmentation. Diagram of budding. And diagram of spore formation. Draw as homework. and in between you keep gaps of about 6 to 7 lines. Gap 6 to 7 lines. Clear? In 2 pages, finish this work as homework.
Thymus is called the parent body or the divided
Parent body. The divided are the fragments. Okay? Thank you.
Very dedicated. वही खाने के लिए मैं रस सामान सैंडविच में बैठ मेरा पापा का डील बना था लास्ट वीक के अराउंड बट ये